Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a really fascinating set of sources today, and our mission is, as always, to get right to the core insights for you. We're tackling two things that honestly feel pretty disconnected at first glance. You know, the state of your garage, maybe that messy closet, and, well, your bank balance. But the argument here, and this is what's kind of surprising across these sources, is that physical clutter, that pile of papers, the stuff jammed in drawers, it's actually a financial problem, like an
Yes.
active liability. It's not just annoying, it's costing you money. And the financial clutter that comes with it, it stops you from getting stable. Okay, let's unpack this. We're really going to try and connect the dots between that, organizational chaos and actual costly financial mistakes.
Exactly. And what we're trying to give you here is maybe a shortcut, a way to get really informed about personal finance, but looking at it through this lens of like behavioral science.
Yeah.
We want to move past just listing budgeting rules. So the key thing for you to take away is really twofold. First, just understanding how all that clutter, physical and mental, creates this decision fatigue that costs you. And second, setting up a kind of a framework for a regular financial tune-up, something that makes sure the mess doesn't just creep back in.
Okay, let's dive into that first part then. Segment one, the hidden costs of financial clutter. I mean, why should we really care if the desk is covered in old mail? Seems trivial, right?
Well, it's all about cognitive load. It's
It's
fascinating, actually. The science here suggests that clutter, whether it's, visual chaos in your house or just a messy email inbox, it literally taxes your brain. Every single item, every half-done task. It's like a tiny decision that's hanging over you waiting to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And that constant low-level demand, it raises stress hormones. And, well, when you're stressed, you tend to make poor financial choices.
Ah, okay. So you might impulse buy something just for that quick dopamine hit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you just avoid the complicated stuff, right? Like reviewing your insurance policies or dealing with old accounts because your brain's already overloaded.
So the junk itself isn't the direct cost necessarily, it's the stress it creates, and that leads to the money mistakes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a quote in the sources that really sums it up. With clutter comes loss of statements, accounts, policies, and money. And it's honestly kind of astonishing how often people, they just lose track of valuable things, like old 401ks from a previous job or maybe an annuity, just because they never had a clear system.
Wow.
The paperwork gets, shoved in a drawer somewhere, maybe a box in the attic,
Yeah.
and the asset itself is just forgotten.
Yeah, and if you don't even know you have it, you obviously can't make it work for you. Okay, so besides losing track of assets, what about the sort of immediate day-to-day expenses?
Well, clutter definitely encourages duplication. Happens all the time. You can't find the good pair of scissors, so you just buy another pair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can't find that bill that came in the mail, you forget about it, and bam, there's a late fee.
Right.
And then there's the flip side, the saving and earning side. Think about the opportunity cost. If your home is less cluttered, maybe you don't need that storage unit you're paying for every month.
Good point.
And, like you mentioned earlier, selling stuff you don't use brings in cash. Donating it can give you tax benefits. So decluttering, it really cuts waste and it forces you to be more intentional with your resources.
Okay, that sets up the solution perfectly. If the chaos is the core problem, then segment two is about building the structure you need. We're calling it decluttering your financial architecture. And this isn't just, tidying up a bit. It sounds more like a real commitment to efficiency.
Exactly. Financial decluttering is all about streamlining.
Yeah.
The goal is fewer accounts, less noise, less paperwork, fewer demands on your time and attention. Just simpler.
So how do you actually do that? We can kind of break the action plan down into, say, physical and digital stuff people need to tackle. On the physical side, the very first step, maybe the hardest, is just designate time and space. You actually have to block off hours on your calendar to face the piles of paper, the statements, the accounts. It's not a 5-minute job.
No, definitely not.
And once you've got that time, then you can organize documents, maybe move to a mostly digital system, keep only the absolute essentials, tax records for as long as you need them, current insurance policies, and then just aggressively shred or delete the rest. Get rid of it.
Yeah, be ruthless. And the digital side is just as important. The sources really emphasize consolidating accounts. Like if you've got 3 different savings accounts at 3 different banks, maybe an old checking account you're never closed.
Yeah.
It just makes tracking your money flow and, getting the best interest rates
Yeah.
way harder than it needs to be.
Right.
Fewer accounts, better accounts. That makes tracking feel more intuitive, and it just removes that friction, that decision fatigue we talked about.
Okay. And this next one feels huge. The audit of subscriptions. I think everyone kind of knows they probably have too many streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
But the real danger is those sneaky ones, right? The monthly apps, the software you forgot about, maybe a gym membership that started cheap and then the price jumped way up after the intro offer.
Oh, yeah. Those set it and forget its charges add up incredibly fast.
So auditing those seems like a really low effort, high reward way to stop bleeding cash almost immediately.
Absolutely. And you mentioned turning clutter into cash before. That's kind of the final piece of this cleanup phase. Once you identify things you genuinely don't use, sell or donate them, that little bit of extra cash or even just the tax receipt from a donation, it builds momentum. It helps reinforce the idea that owning less but owning intentionally feels good.
Okay, so let's say you've done it. You've achieved some clarity. The space is cleaner. The accounts are streamlined. Feels good. But like maintaining a car, a clean engine needs regular checkups, right? How do we shift from that big cleanup effort to just ongoing maintenance?
That's exactly where the financial tune-up concept comes in. If we sort of connect this to the bigger picture, the tune-up is about regularly realigning your habits,
Yeah.
your spending, your saving, your investing with your actual goals.
Right.
The clutter's gone, or at least managed, so now you actually have the mental bandwidth, the cognitive space to think strategically.
Got it. And what are those classic red flags, the warning signs that tell you, the listener, hey, you are way overdue for this financial tune-up? The sources pointed out 5 really urgent ones. Number 1, frequent financial emergencies. You know, if you're constantly scrambling, that unexpected car repair, the vet bill, the washing machine breaks. If there's just no money set aside for that stuff, you don't have buffer.
Yeah, that's a big one. Sign number 2 is increasing debt levels. If you're regularly carrying a balance on your credit cards month after month, or if making your car payment or personal loan payment feels like a real struggle, that debt isn't just sitting there. It's actively eating away at your ability to save or invest. And it definitely adds to anxiety. That's like a 5-alarm fire, financially speaking.
For sure. The third sign is something more about habits, irregular savings. You know, consistent saving is the bedrock of financial health. So if your savings are all over the place, maybe you save a lot 1 month and nothing for 3 months, or worse, you dip into savings regularly, it points to either inconsistent spending or maybe just a lack of clear priorities.
Right. And the sources had a good tip there. If your income is variable, maybe you're freelance or commission-based, don't stress about saving a fixed dollar amount each month. Aim for a fixed percentage of whatever you earn. That makes it more consistent.
Smart. Okay, sign number 4, and this one is apparently really common, living paycheck to paycheck. The sources estimate this could be, what, like 57% of Americans?
Yeah, it's incredibly prevalent. And while it might feel normal because so many people are doing it, it means you are extremely vulnerable. Any hiccup, a pay cut, unexpected expense can throw you into a crisis immediately.
And the last red flag, number 5, just a lack of financial goals. If you don't have anything specific you're aiming for, short-term or long-term, managing money can feel pointless, like you're just treading water. That feeling leads to stress, maybe some what-the-heck overspending, and definitely inertia, like not bothering to invest. Goals give you that roadmap, that discipline.
Okay, so we know why we need the tune-up. We see the warning signs. Let's pivot now fully into the proactive strategy, segment 4. This is where we take that newfound clarity and actually build some financial muscle. And this is where, yeah, I think it gets really interesting.
Right. So the absolute first step, the foundation, is the diagnostic assessment. You just have to know your starting point precisely. That means tracking everything, all your income, all your spending, for at least a couple of months, maybe 3. Budgeting apps and software make this way easier than it used to be.
Okay, track everything. Then what? Then you list it all out. All your assets, savings balances, investment values, whatever you own. And crucially, all your debts. And not just the total amount you need, the current balance, the interest rate, and the minimum monthly payment for each debt.
The interest rate is key.
Absolutely. You need that complete picture. That's the only way to really strategize.
Okay, so you've got the full picture. Numbers are down on paper or in the app. Step 2 is set SMART goals. We hear that acronym all the time, SMART. But it works because it forces you to be specific.
Exactly. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. You need some immediate goals, like maybe saving up that emergency fund we talked about, say, 3 months of essential living expenses within the next 12 months. And you also need those longer-term goals, like saving for retirement or a down payment.
And for retirement, that big long-term goal, the sources mentioned the 4% rule as a way to kind of estimate how much you might need.
Yeah, it's a useful planning guideline. Basically, you estimate your desired annual spending in retirement. Then you multiply that number by 25. So say you think you'll need $50,000 a year in retirement. Multiply by 25, that gives you a target nest egg of $1.25 million.
Okay.
The idea behind it is that if you have that amount invested, withdrawing 4% of it each year, $50,000 in this example, has historically been sustainable over a typical retirement period without running out of money.
Got it. It's a target to aim for based on past market performance.
Yeah.
Makes it feel less abstract.
Exactly. It gives you a concrete number. So step 3, once you have goals, is create a budget plan. You use the expense tracking you did earlier to build this. The 50-30-20 approach is really popular and effective for a lot of people. Basically, you aim to allocate your after-tax income like this. 50% for wants, housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance minimums.
Okay, the essentials.
Right. Then 30% for wants, dining out, hobbies, entertainment, travel, clothes beyond the basics, discretionary stuff.
Mhm.
And the remaining 20% goes directly towards your financial goals, primarily savings, building that emergency fund, and paying down debt faster than the minimums.
And that 20% is key for making progress.
Absolutely. And remember, when you're looking for places to cut back in your budget, those top 3 categories, housing, food, and transportation, typically account for something like 2/3 of most people's spending. So that's usually where the biggest potential savings are.
Makes sense. Okay, crucial step 4. Protecting that budget by building an emergency fund. This is your shield against those frequent financial emergencies we mentioned.
Yes. This is non-negotiable, really. The standard recommendation is usually 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses. Not total income, just what you absolutely need to cover your core needs.
And you might need more if your situation is less stable.
Exactly. If you're self-employed or the sole earner for your family or your income fluctuates a lot, aiming higher, maybe 6 months, even up to a year of expenses, provides a much stronger safety net and peace of mind.
Okay. And finally, got to tackle debt. The sources really push the avalanche method. Explain that again. Focus on the highest interest rate debt first.
That's right. With the avalanche method, you make the minimum payment on all your debts except the one with the highest interest rate.
Yep.
You throw every extra dollar you can find at that specific debt until it's gone. Then you take all the money you were paying on that cleared debt, minimum plus extra, and add it to the payment for the debt with the next highest interest rate. You create a snowball of payment rolling downhill, but targeted by interest rate.
Okay. Mathematically, that makes total sense. Saves the most on interest. But what about the debt snowball method we sometimes hear about, paying off the smallest balance first, just to get that quick win and stay motivated? Is that ever okay?
It's a really great question. You're right, the math absolutely favors the avalanche method. You will pay less interest overall, full stop.
Mm.
But behavioral finance is important too. Sometimes that psychological boost you get from completely eliminating a debt, even a small one, is powerful. It can keep you motivated to stick with the whole plan.
Right.
So if that quick win is what keeps you going, it might be worth paying slightly more interest in the long run compared to giving up entirely. But for pure financial efficiency, avalanche is king.
Good clarification. And debt consolidation, watch out for fees.
Yeah, it could be an option, maybe rolling multiple high-interest debts into one lower-interest loan. But you have to scrutinize the terms, the new interest rate, any balance transfer fees, origination fees. Make sure it actually saves you money and doesn't just extend the repayment period unnecessarily.
Okay, wow. That really brings it all together. So the decluttering, physical and digital, gives you the clear head and the organized space. And then the financial tune-up provides the actual strategy, the SMART goals, the 50-30-20 budget, to use that clarity effectively.
Exactly. And both pieces work together to dramatically cut down on stress and build real, tangible security.
It really does feel like it circles back to just intentionality, being deliberate.
It does. And that research we saw from San Francisco State University was fascinating. It found that people who consciously choose to spend their money on experiences, travel, learning, time with loved ones, rather than just accumulating more possessions, they consistently report higher levels of happiness and life satisfaction. And you really can't make that intentional shift towards experiences if you feel like you're drowning in, clutter related to possessions you don't even use and the financial stress that often comes with it.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Ultimately, this whole process, cleaning up your physical space, your digital life, your finances, it's really about reclaiming control. Control over where your time, your energy, and your money are actually going.
It's about consciously designing a future that feels sustainable, one that's free from all that unnecessary friction, that cognitive drag we talked about.
Okay, so let's leave you with one final thought to chew on. Think about one specific thing, maybe an unused gadget sitting in a drawer, or a subscription you keep forgetting to cancel. Just one thing you identified today that's basically clutter, physical or financial. Now imagine, what truly intentional experience could you fund? Maybe a weekend trip, a class you've wanted to take, a meaningful donation, or what long-term goal like retirement or debt freedom could you speed up if you permanently got rid of the cost or the item associated with just that one thing? That single shift, that's where the real power of this intentionality starts.